get straightened. Is Julie here? Yes. We sang all 3 verses. You know that. All right. So also I want to make mention that it's really neat that Rob and Peggy's neighbors came for the first time, and they came to pizza with us. And I already know the answer because I'm just guessing. Why did they come?
Because we had a conversation.
Because you asked them. Isn't that amazing? It's so simple. So I appreciate your prayers. We keep asking people. The Lord keeps help bringing people here. And it's good to have your son here. You know, it's Mike the 3rd time, 4th time. Yeah, that's great. So it's just exciting to see, just the things that just keep on continuing on. So we're not going to let sorrow get in the way, right? Or pain or problems. It's interesting I'm sorry? It's fleeting. It's interesting. Paul says temporary. And they are. In the big picture, any kind of suffering you go through is temporary. Do you realize in the Bible that 15 to 20% of the subject matter of the Bible is all about suffering? Either it's directly about suffering or it's a backdrop to God's delivering us from suffering. Of course, the redemption of Jesus Christ is to get us away from our suffering in hell, right? And so there's about 3,000 to 4,000 conservatively verses about suffering in the Bible. Some say up to 6,000. And I just share that as suffering is a constant theme throughout Scripture. So should we be surprised if we suffer ourselves in any way? No, it's just part of life. And so Paul mentions suffering some 50 times in his letters. And we've looked at 1 Peter. It's often called the epistle of suffering because Peter begins with rejoice in your trials. Thanks, Peter. Yeah, rejoice in your trials. Then as we're going to look at one verse, he says, don't be surprised. And so when we look at it, we're all going to have to learn how to deal with suffering, right? And we can deal it in a negative way or in a positive way. And so that's why we're calling this How to Suffer Well, Suffering Well. And so I hope it's beneficial to you. Now, I need some examples in the Bible, since I mentioned there's so many verses. Give me some examples of people that suffered. Job. Raise your hand so I get, one at a time. Job. Yeah, who else? Jesus. And that's the one we always have to talk about. Jesus suffered probably worse than anyone. And did it turn out well?
Yes.
For who?
For us.
Everyone who wants to come to Jesus. Suffering is a positive thing if we let it be. All right? Yes. Joseph. Now, that guy really suffered, but did it turn out well? Yes. Well, it saved his whole family, the nation of Israel. If they would have died, the promise to Abraham had been null and void, no Jesus. Yeah. Alex? Peter suffered. Now, did you make that up? Oh.
I thought she was going to say Paul.
Yeah, well, Peter suffered. In fact, Jesus said, if I want, you just follow me. He said, well, what about John? He said, no, if I want you to suffer a lot of things, don't you worry about John. You just pick up your cross and follow me. And Peter supposedly was crucified upside down. Yeah.
Peter's mother-in-law.
Peter's mother-in-law, she suffered because
They had to raise her.
she died. And I think she suffered when they rose her, like, why did you raise me? It was pretty cool being dead. You're in it. Anyway, that's better. Julie.
Really, all the apostles.
All the apostles. Yeah. Yes. Peter? Stephen. How did he suffer? No. Yeah, can you imagine rocks coming and hitting you in the head, and the first one hurt, and luckily you got knocked out soon if you were lucky, and you didn't feel anymore. Yes?
Can you realize that Saul, which turned out to be Paul, was the one killing him?
And Jesus even told Ananias, I'm going to show him how many things he must suffer for my name's sake. Paul really suffered, didn't he? Yes?
When Paul suffered, when he stood there with the cloak of Stephen and was consenting to his death,
Yeah.
Stephen was stoned to death. Now Paul would also be stoned,
Yeah.
and he would feel that.
More than once.
He
Yeah.
would learn how many things he must suffer
Yeah.
for the Lord's sake. But he was left for dead. The Jews never left anyone from stoning that they weren't confident
Yeah.
he was dead.
So it's probably
Yes,
miraculous.
God raised him.
Jeff,
The people of Egypt under Pharaoh's stiff-necked disobedience,
did they suffer?
their firstborn.
Yeah. I mean, so the Bible, we could just go on and spend the rest of the hour talking about suffering in the Bible. So again, should we be shocked that we have to undergo some kind of trials or suffering? No. So how we deal with it is the most important thing. Mary. Elijah. He's not whining, but he's hiding in a cave because like, woe is me, right? We're going to talk about having a victim mentality. He was close there. Is a victim mentality a good thing or a bad thing? It's a bad thing. We'll talk about it. If you don't know it, it's easy to fall into that trap. Yes.
But as Christians, I'm really thankful that Jesus suffered more than anyone.
Yeah.
And because we have a Savior that understands our pain
Exactly.
when we go through suffering.
Exactly. Exactly.
What a terrible death he had to die.
I mean, yeah. Just coming to the earth and waking up in a baby's body, like, he suffered. This is the Creator.
I don't know, I've repeatedly said, Jack said he couldn't wait, Jesus couldn't wait to get back to heaven.
I'm certain he was. It's true. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how much, how severe. All right? Because we all are going to. So no one is ever going to feel like, oh, you were picked out or you're being picked on to suffer. Everyone's going to suffer in one way or another, right? So that's what we have to understand. Peter says, again, the epistle of suffering, don't be surprised. And I know sometimes we get surprised, but well, why me? Or what did I do? Or this is not fair. And we go through that litany of crying. But these guys are Christians in that day are actually losing their life because of their faith. Most of the suffering in the New Testament is because of one's faith, not because they got cancer. Because that falls on who? The righteous and the unrighteous. But this suffering is largely because of their faith. Now, I never want to undermine or undervalue people going through any kind of suffering, whether it's cancer or a loss of a loved one. But even Paul says we don't mourn when someone dies as those who have no hope. We mourn though, don't we? Yes. And that's suffering. It's painful, but we do it differently. We suffer well. Not like the rest of the world that has no hope. And that's the key difference here. So he says, don't be surprised as though something strange were happening to you, but to the degree that you share the sufferings of Christ, what are you supposed to do? Rejoice. That's learning to suffer well. So at the revelation of his glory, you may result in exaltation. All suffering is going to turn out to glory. That's the promise. All right, so 3 simple points we're going to look at. First of all, we got to look in the mirror. If we're going to deal with suffering, we have to look in the mirror and just do some introspection or reflection upon ourselves. James says this one, that if you're a hearer of the word and not a doer, it's like a guy that looks in a mirror, a real mirror, and maybe sees something on his face and walks away and doesn't do anything about it. So my wife says, don't you see that jam or that honey or that ketchup on your face? And I don't feel it. And she's always my mirror telling me to wipe it off. And I go, nope, still there. So, but what if you knew you had ketchup on your face and you did nothing about it after looking in the mirror? That'd be silly, wouldn't it? Yeah. So he says, God's word is that way. It's like a mirror, and it shows what you're doing well, but it also shows you your shortcomings, your flaws. But if you look intently at the perfect law, the law of liberty, it'll set you free. That's why it's called the law of liberty. And abide by it, not become a forgetful hearer, but an effectual doer. You're going to be blessed in what you do. So, remember we said our last lesson, God allows suffering to promote spiritual growth, doesn't he? We grow by our suffering. It also causes us to stop trusting in ourselves and start trusting in him. And suffering's a pathway to glory. So when we look in the mirror, we have to ask ourselves a question when we do so. And the question is going to be this, is first of all, I got to find out what I'm suffering or why I'm suffering and what I'm suffering and why I'm suffering. And we do this because we want to avoid the victim mentality. All right? Did you have something?
Some Christians, all of us have a different character.
Yes.
And each person's character is a little bit different than the others in that some need more, if you will, suffering in order to shape that character.
Well, that's true.
And so God
Yeah.
knows your character. He knows what you need to get you to
Yeah.
where you need to be.
If you've ever raised a horse or a dog, some dogs need a lot more discipline than the compliant ones.
Yes.
Right. And when you're the uncompliant, stubborn willed, you get a little more. God he loves you. All right. Let's talk about this. Here are some identifying characteristics of someone that has a victim mentality. First of all, they think life's against you. Jim Carnes, who used to be at Elder South, he would talk about Guy Peak, and I don't mind using his name, he's passed away, but he had this thing he called peak luck, because everything he does goes bad. You know, that's peak luck, you know. He just figured all life was against him. And when things do go bad, when you have a victim mentality, you blame others, always. It's always somebody else's fault, the government or your friends or your family or the church. Because the person that has this victim mentality doesn't have the ability to look at themselves. What may I have done that caused this suffering or these problems in my life? And then is that an important question to ask?
Yes.
It's a hugely important. So they're not able to take personal responsibility, so they get stuck in life. And they attract people who complain and blame others. Why would they do that?
Because birds of a feather, they come together.
Yeah, there's a side effect of this victim mentality. Not only do you have your own problems, when you get people around you that feel the same way, they give you sympathy, and then you get stuck even more. Yeah, you're a victim. Oh, I feel so sorry. That's terrible what they did to you. And they complain on your behalf, and you become just this misery group. Now, I know no one's ever done that here, so we're okay. But I'm going to still talk about it because it's very difficult for that person to look at themselves. And when people point things out to them, here's what you're doing wrong. They get very offensive and upset. Very offensive. How are we going to avoid that? Because this is a real life. There's all sorts of psychology written about it and how to overcome it. Someone had their hand up. I'm sorry. Yes? Misery loves company. There's some truth to that. But it's defeating, isn't it? Now, again, am I saying there aren't real problems in life that you mourn over? Yeah, there are real things. But we don't want to have a victim mentality. Like, man, everyone's after me. God doesn't love me. You know, I'm just stuck, and it's just the way it is. Woe is me. Woe is me. They can't forget the past. They can't move forward. They're stuck. So that's why it's so important that we look in the mirror. And the first question I'm going to say is, I got to identify the type of suffering. I'm going to call it name the pain. Now, what I mean by that is because there's different kind of sufferings in the world, right? Mention some of them. What are they? Financial suffering, right? Physical suffering because of what? Oh, illness, arthritis, old age, cancer, losing a leg. Yes? Relationship. Does that cause you to suffer? All right? Huh? I'm sorry? Persecution because of our faith. Now, that can come in violent forms, but it's more passive aggressive in our society, right? From family members to others that just diss you or make fun of you or have nothing to do with you. But that causes suffering, doesn't it? Yes. Anybody else? What other?
Children that are in pain.
All right.
That's one that really hits a lot of people. Children that are suffering.
All right. So there's all sorts of things. Some are spiritual, some are common to everybody in the world, but they all fall under this umbrella of suffering. And so I got to know, what is it that I'm actually suffering? Is it faith related? That's an important question. Is it because of my faith? Because when God disciplines us, he's trying to what? teach us, train us up to become more like him. So I got to know, what is it I'm suffering? What am I feeling here? Is it faith related? Do I have a lack of faith, or I'm ashamed of my faith, or are people attacking me because of my faith? What is the pain that I'm feeling? Maybe it's something that's common to everyone. Now, that's important because I know a lot of you have had cancer. I had a skin cancer. When you hear the C word, it's scary, right? And could it be easy to go, woe is me? But who gets cancer? It's the third leading cause of death, isn't it, I think? Millions of people get cancer. So you have to understand, what is it that you're suffering? Is it common to everyone or just peculiar to you? Usually it's what? Common to everyone. And that changes things, doesn't it? Here's the next question. Is it self-inflicted? What would that be?
Bad decision.
Yes. Huh? A drunkard. All right. Yeah. And then you drive and you get in an accident. Now you're in jail because you killed someone. Is that self-inflicted? And it's reaping what you sow. Remember we talked about that's some of the causes of suffering. You reap, it's an immutable law, right? Who was something in the Old Testament that reaped what they sowed and they had a lot of suffering? David. Murdered, adultery and all that. Did he suffer? And who's the only one that's responsible for that? David.
Just like Haman.
But he never had a victim mentality. Yeah, Haman. That's right. Jake. Oh, yeah, because of his lying. How about Lot being in Sodom and Gomorrah? He chose there when his uncle, Abraham, said, you pick where you want. He picked the best for himself. And he ended up living in Sodom and Gomorrah. He chose that. It was indirectly, but he reaped what he sowed. And then his wife turned into a... All right, you guys are good. It could be the evil of others that you're suffering from, right? Now we're asking really the question, the source. What am I suffering? What's this pain I'm feeling? And where did it come from? Because if it's because of my faith, I'm going to what? Rejoice. If it's common to everyone, I just have to take a big sigh and pray to God. But if it's what I have brought upon myself, that's the source, then I need to do a self-reflection. Like, what do I need to change? What do I need to repent of in my life? David said, I have sinned against God and God only. He took total responsibility for his sin. There was no excuses. He was open and honest about it, but he had to understand the source, why he's suffering. And remember why he suffered? The first thing, he lost the death. It was his child. And what did he say? Yeah, he will not come to me, but I will go to him. Blessed be the name of the Lord. That's a suffering well. Was he suffering? But he knew what he was suffering, this inward pain because his child's sick and he's going to face the loss. That's grievous, isn't it, of his child? But he knew why. And those two together gave him the ability to suffer well. Did he suffer? Yes, but in a good way. Someone had their hand up? Yes.
I mentioned something today, and I hope you don't mind, Pam, but I think it's worthy of repeating. But she had mentioned she was sick for that whole week, and she wasn't getting better. And she kept feeling bad, and then somebody told her, pray about it. And so she prayed about it, and she said within 8 hours, she felt better.
There you go. That's going to be part of our solution. Be anxious for nothing, but take everything to God in prayer.
Yeah, I do listen
Yeah.
to you talk.
Yeah. Wow.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So when we look at it, there's maybe one more. Sometimes it's time and chance. Remember we talked about that? These things happen. Like if you were living in Jamaica, what kind of suffering are you going through now?
Hurricane.
It was a Cat 5 that just obliterated the landscape.
All your worldly goods.
Now, did you do anything evil?
No.
Was it the evil people around you?
No.
It's just time and chance. You were in the wrong place at the right time, right? And is it woe is me? Well, there's some pain, but life's against me? No, it's just you happened to be in the path of a hurricane, right? And the last one would be like, that would be a natural course then, due to fallen world. We live in an evil world, don't we? Yes. And because it's a fallen world, there's going to be consequences of people's evil actions that cause us to suffer. Right. So, does that make sense? What am I feeling? What am I going through? And what's the reason why? Now, you might not be able to answer either of those, but you want to do some self-reflection, especially if you induce them yourself. Because that's a lot of our real suffering comes from things we've done ourselves, right? All right, so after that, we got to ask this question, what am I going to do with this suffering? And really, it's a question of autonomy. Am I going to be self-ruling in my life, or am I going to give my problems over to God? Now, we're all going to say, well, we're going to give them over to God. But guess what we all do?
You try to handle it yourself.
We hang on to them, and we like them because sometimes the more you stir them, it makes you feeling good being miserable. And I'm going to say it again. Some people feel good by being miserable. And it's the weirdest thing, because there's a time for that, but when it goes on and on and on, it's almost like it gives them an excuse to do nothing, because I'm miserable because my life's about suffering. And then they gather those people, like I say, misery loves company around them, and it gives them some type of significance, like, woe is me. And they get attention from especially Christian friends and family. Oh, we're praying for you, feel bad for you. And the only attention they get is by being miserable. Isn't that terrible? A terrible place to be. And so they're in control of their suffering because they're managing it really well. Sometimes it's with addiction or drugs or alcohol, right? There's other ways people try to manage it, but we know the answer is we truly got to let God be in control, don't we? Remember we said in the Psalms ascent, unless the Lord builds the house, you're building your house in. When it comes to suffering and managing it, we got to let the God take care of it, because if we don't, it's all going to be in vain. We got to let him build our life, build our house. So how are we going to do that? So we're going to talk about that. So first of all, the two choices are obviously I'm going to be in control, or I'm going to give it all to God. Now, what's hard about giving it to God? You help me. Let's say you've got cancer, and then the doctor says it's, can we say it's terminal? That's pretty serious. Why is that hard to give it to God? What's hard about that? You still want to live. So you're going to fight it, aren't you? Yeah, because you want to live. Yes, Jeff.
Why aren't you fixing this for me? Why aren't you saving me from this?
Boy, and we start blaming God and questioning God, right? Now, when we do that, who's in control, him or us, when we do that? We are. Yeah. We're dictating, the conversation. And I can understand that. Don't get me wrong, because it's an obvious response to the shock of knowing you're going to die of cancer. Now, that young man in McVinville, what's his name? Josh, yes.
Josh Martin.
He lost his leg up to his hip because he had to keep cutting it back to get to good skin and muscle.
27 years old.
27. Now, is he going to suffer? Is he suffering now? Is it amazing, as we showed that picture of the guy who was born no hands and no legs? Remember 2 weeks ago? Yep. And the woman, who became a paraplegic. And you did see him preach. And they start out getting depressed, and some are suicidal, but they don't have this victim mentality. They overcome it, and they become victors rather than victims. Can you say that for those two people? And I think Josh has that spirit from my here who's lost his leg. He's going to be a victor and not a victim. And it's the whole difference. And I think that for us as Christians, the difference is, who am I going to let be in control? Did God allow it to happen? You have to say yes. If he's in charge of everything, he allows the storms to come. Does it mean he sent the storm to blow your house down? No, he could have. We won't know that. But did he allow it to come? Yes. Did he allow that drunk to hit your car? Because people say, well, he could have removed the car out of my way or something. They want a miracle. But yeah, then no one would ever die, right? If God always intervened, no one would ever die. So he does allow it. So I have to just say, God, you let it happen. I'm going to give you control of taking care of my suffering. Yes?
Can you
Yes.
lost that accident.
The dominoes that start following, you know, like dominoes lined up, it's just, the consequences are so painful because of one beer sometimes. That's right. And it could be because he just got a divorce and went out and got drinking. I mean, there's so many backstories to it, but it's all cause and effect, and people are suffering all around us, everyone. It doesn't excuse what they do, but they're in charge of themselves. They're self-medicating when they're drinking, right? So what are we going to do? I'm going to give it to God. So the other thing we have to do is find acceptance. This is probably the hardest thing. Accept that I'm going through some real painful suffering. Because the victim mentality is in denial. I don't deserve this. It's not fair. Blames everyone else. And they don't want to accept, I'm just grieving right now. And it's okay to accept, like, I'm really a mess right now. This is hard. That takes humility, doesn't it? And it's okay, because Jesus, when he was called to help Lazarus before he died, he delayed his coming. And when he got there, everyone's weeping and wailing. He said, didn't you know that I am the resurrection of life? Even if you die, you're going to live. And he said, yeah, we know that, Lord, but why weren't you here? Then he sat down in the shortest verse of the New Testament, says what?
Jesus wept.
Did he accept his grief in his time? He didn't try to deny it. He didn't try to be man up and just be tough. He wept. That's acceptance. And that's the pathway to letting God be in charge. Like, I'm powerless over this. This has overcome me. There's nothing I can do about it at the moment. I'm just going to give it to it. It's okay to weep. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to suffer. If you want to suffer well, you have to have an acceptance. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say? All right, now it's hard to get there, but it's absolutely necessary. Yes?
We all, there's a transition period. I don't think that anybody can just, have some kind of tragedy and just immediately say, okay, I accept it. Just
Yeah,
like Jesus weeping. There's a period of time of adjustment
good point.
that you have to.
Did you hear that? There's a period of transition to get to this acceptance, right? So, because if Jesus would have not wept, but said, hey, you all, we're supposed to rejoice in our trials, and he just started laughing, hey, let's have a party. Would that have been out of place at a funeral? Like, what is wrong with you? Yeah, it would just be, but no, he wept. Even though he knew what he was going to do, because it still hurt to see his friend die. Yes.
Accepting, accepting God's decision on something can be very, very difficult.
Very challenging.
When my husband had cancer, I prayed 4 or 5 times a day for the Lord to save him. That's what I wanted.
Yes.
And when that didn't happen, it was very difficult for me to accept the Lord's circumstances.
Yes.
I prayed, why?
Why?
all
It's
the
a
time.
process, isn't it?
And it took about a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
before I realized that Bill had not lived his life very well.
Right.
And as a result, his health was bad.
So some of it was self-induced, right?
Right. Some
Mhm.
of it was self-induced.
But it's still grievous, isn't it?
But he, as a result, got cancer. And the part that was difficult for me is I wanted to know why the Lord did that. Why he
Why?
didn't answer
Why?
my
Why?
prayer. Why? And I found out that it was essentially between Bill and the Lord. It didn't have anything to do with
That's right.
nothing at all, really.
You know, I hear what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? I was
But because of your relationship, you still suffered, though, because of his actions, right? Right.
effect of
Sure.
what happened to Bill.
It's a domino effect, isn't it? Yeah.
But the point was, it was between Bill and the Lord was going to do what was best for Bill.
That's right.
It was never about what I thought was best. It was about what
Yeah.
the Lord felt was best.
Or he's letting natural
And accepting
consequences just run their course, right?
accepting that,
Yeah.
that was a real kick in the butt.
It is hard because the alternative is, God, you're going to answer every prayer when someone says, cure my cancer. That means no one would ever die of cancer. Well, that's ridiculous. Well, he can just answer my prayer, you know. And so accept this. Now, there's two ways we can go with acceptance too. I'm going to accept the problem and try to change the circumstances. Now, I say this because there's certain areas where they're self-induced, and I need to look at myself, what can I do different? Because God allows suffering to promote spiritual growth. And if I brought these problems on myself or somehow indirectly, I'm going to try to change the circumstance so this never happens again. Now, what would be an example of that? Drunk driving, addiction, those are easy ones, right? Sometimes is health problems a direct result of my diet? Okay, we don't like to talk about that, especially me when I like to eat the wrong things. But that maybe I need to look in the mirror and say, Lord, my body's your temple, and I need to make changes so I can avoid the suffering, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Yes, Dan.
It doesn't take away the consequences.
Right. Some of them are permanent, right? The other one is sometimes you can't change the circumstances. Like whoever your king is, or you lost your leg. You're not going to change that. And then you have to learn to adapt your acceptance. Like, I'm going to be a victor in the midst of these circumstances. I'm not going to let them control me. I'm going to control them through I'm going to let God control them. Excuse me, is what I'm saying. You see the difference? That I'm still going to be a victor. Yes.
Yeah, well, when I went through an operation, and I had to go through it, and it was benign, but, you know, I gave God and I told God, well, either way, devil, you ain't getting me, I'm going to God.
Good for you.
I or if I live.
Yeah.
Praise God.
Well, let me, with that being said, a couple of questions. The answers are obvious yes. Is God ultimately in charge anyway? Does he promise that he cares for us? Yes. We're going to look at a verse in a second that says that. Can he do a better job with my problems than I can? Yes. So I'm just going to give it over to God. You're in charge. If this is the way you want me to be the rest of my life, fine. I'm going to do my life for your glory. Right? That's hard, but that's the victor's cry. Yes, Mariano.
Talking about this and the class this morning, I think about three guys, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When God told Abraham to leave his land and his family and all that he had, he was 35 years old with no children, and maybe he was already suffering because of that.
Yeah.
And God
That's hard to leave his family, yeah.
and now leave your family. I can imagine his internal thoughts, like, what?
Yeah.
But he followed, and he did, and he obeyed God. And God told him, well, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to be with you. Just trust in me, and
Right.
it will be okay. And later, in a time of famine,
Yeah.
it was no good, he went to Egypt.
Right.
He was not trusting God.
Right.
It took like 25 plus years to develop his faith in God until he was a child. And his child, Isaac, did the same thing.
Yeah.
God told him, I will bless you, I will be with you, you trust in me. And a famine happens, and he went to Egypt.
Yeah, right.
And later
Yeah.
Jacob, his wife was
Yeah.
like his mom,
Right.
his grandmother. And God, the same promise, I will be with you, I will take care of you. And I don't know if Jacob was trusting in God, but you see that later happened a famine again.
Yeah.
But God took control of that, and Joseph was in Egypt.
Yeah.
So God
Right.
was taking Jacob and all his family to Egypt
Yeah.
where the blessings were.
It's amazing.
But Abraham and Isaac were not trusting at that moment in God. Sometimes I think we need time of suffering that we can trust more.
It teaches us. Remember we talked about last time that I don't trust in my own, but I trust more in the Lord. That's what Paul said. We learn not to trust in ourselves, but in God's deliverance. And that takes time. Takes time. the man born blind that you had in your class, that's a great one. This guy's born blind. How many sunsets has he seen? Flowers, sparrows, nothing. Do you think he maybe could have tempted to say, woe is me? But why was he born blind? It says in the text, so the glory of God could be manifested in him, the works of God. Can you imagine when he washed his eyes and he could see the first time? I mean, because he had 20/20 vision. I know he did. He didn't have to have glasses. It was perfect. The color, people, flowers, the blue sky.
Caused him to jump.
Yeah, God was in charge. 40 years blind. Yeah, it takes time sometimes, doesn't it? All right. So with that all being said, here's some things we got to do for suffer well. We just got to be honest. And that's hard. Sometimes men want to man up, like, oh, I just got to be tough, and I don't want to admit that I'm suffering. And we just got to, no, this is hard, and it's okay when life gets hard. I just got to deal with it properly and take it to God, all right? So there's no shame in suffering, even though in our culture, especially when you're supposed to man up, there people sometimes feel shame to acknowledge that they need help or they're not doing well. So we got to be honest how we feel while we're going through. Whether there's sadness, confusion, or even doubt in God, let's be honest about it, because we can talk to God about it. And that's the Psalms, the message that holds you God out of it. That when the Psalms were sang, they originally came from people who were suffering, right? And what did they write those Psalms about? They're crying to God. They're not complaining to God. I keep on saying that, but they're about God, but they're complaining to God, saying, Lord, why is this happening to me? And that's fair to ask God that, isn't it? Because they're letting God be in charge. They're letting him build their house. And so take it to him. He can handle it. Do you believe that? He can handle it. Anything you want to say. Be respectful, but ask your questions. Cry to him. Share your doubts, your confusion. Like, I don't understand why you did this because I thought it was serving you well. That's fair. Say it to him. Because you're looking in the mirror and he's trying to refine you to become more like Abraham in the end that was able to offer Isaac. You know? He grew in his faith, didn't he? Yes, Jeff.
Well, what comes to mind is the story of Job, because prior to anything happening to Job, God was up there talking to this host of angels.
Yeah.
And talking him up. Look at this man.
Yeah.
So you have no idea what God's thinking about you.
We have no idea what's going on. Right. Yeah, that discussion with Satan and God and the righteous man Job. Have you ever considered him? Yeah.
Could you imagine God talking that way about you?
It could be going on right now, and we wouldn't know, would we? That what did Job get in the end?
He got better than what he had.
10 times the blessings. And we're talking about him today still. Yeah. So, be honest. And then cry correctly. You know what I mean by that? Okay, what would be crying incorrectly be?
Pause here, stop there, cry at this moment.
Oh, you're scripted? You mean just fake, right? Yeah. Some sermons have cry here in their sermon. No, it's got to be genuine, but,
With humility and
victim mentality, right? You're crying because woe is me. It's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. And when people try to point something out, you just crawl over. You don't understand. If you were in my life, you would have never said that. And so they just got this wall of protection. They can't be honest, and so they can't cry to God. But it's okay to cry. Jesus wept. Paul wept. Like the passage in Philippians, with tears, he says, they're enemies of the cross of Christ. It's okay to cry, but cry correctly. Yes? Did you hear that? There's a difference between crying and whining. Yeah. Little kids whine and cry. Dogs whine. Adults. All right. The next thing. There's spiritual disciplines we can do, and there's several of them. But the first spiritual discipline is prayer. That's a discipline. What I mean, it's a practice you do. You discipline yourself to do it, but it's an exercise you do spiritually. You know, the Jews had 3 times of prayer during the day, 3 times during the day. And I was thinking about that just this last week, that I don't know if you just pray before you eat or pray before you go to bed or something, but they consistently had hours and everyone stopped to pray. Now, they could do it out of ritual after a while, but that's not prayer, right? But practice the spiritual discipline of just talking to God, giving it all over to Him. Explain your concerns, your questions, and praise Him and thank Him, at the same time. And so another one's fasting. Remember we talked about fasting? That's a spirit. They fasted twice a week, Tuesday and Thursdays. Jesus didn't say not to fast. He says when you fast, wash your face and don't let anyone know that you're fasting, because you're doing it between you and... There's something about self-affliction, going without food, that you're crying and connecting to God in the midst of your suffering. It's very healthy. You learn how to suffer well. Reading God's word is the other one. Just eating God's word. Eating, that's a spiritual discipline. And suffering is also spiritual discipline, because it's common to all of us. Then we got to practice gratefulness. We sing the song, what? Count your blessings. Because one of the problems when you're suffering is just to get lost in your pit of misery, right? Woe is me. All you can see is darkness. But when you have an exercise of always counting your blessings, that lifts you out of that pit and you can see there is light on the horizon. And so I hate to do this, but can you always find someone worse than yourself? And you don't like doing that, but is that healthy in the big picture? Yes. It is. Yeah, I got it's bad, but it doesn't take, you don't have to look very far. Some people got a lot worse than me. Count your blessings. I do have a home. I still have a church family. I still have my wife. I can still walk. I have both legs. He doesn't. There's so many things to be thankful. We can let one thing just drag us down into the pit of despair. Oh, that was from Princess Bride, by the way. You guys don't know that movie? All right. Yes. Esther.
Well, I was just going to say that anytime I start to feel sorry for myself of what I don't have,
Yeah.
I think there's so many people in this world more that are suffering for what they don't have.
Yeah.
Even the food that they
Right.
don't have and how much I waste.
It's good. That's true.
And so
Yeah.
it brings me back to reality that I am very wealthy.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of food that I even waste.
Yeah.
Where they would take the food that I wasted and
They would eat it. And we see that in Africa a lot. I want to couple that with be honest, because you're not denying, I shouldn't suffer then. Shame on me for feeling bad. No, feel bad, but temper it with gratefulness. Because then your feeling bad will grow amok. It'll get out of hand. Because it's okay to be honest, like I'm hurting, but at least it's not like them. You're tempering it. Does that make sense? You're not letting it control you. Yes, Bob.
The best way to count your blessings, try being handicapped.
Yeah.
Tie your hand behind
Yeah.
your back and using the left hand.
To do anything. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
be blindfolded.
Right?
Doing something that a handicapped.
That would be an interesting exercise. Next week, everyone's blindfolded and
You learn the benefits.
really, you thank God for your vision. Yeah. Real quickly, you got to find someone to talk to, because there's other people who've been through it, and you realize, oh, there is hope. That's helpful. That's why we have a church family. We encourage one another. We stand by one another. 1 Thessalonians says that. Sometimes we carry one another. Yes.
I have found that if you, at the end of each day, if you write down 5 blessings or 5 things that you are grateful for
Wow.
at the end of the day, and you take the time to review that before your prayer,
Nice.
that keeps you
More level.
more leveled
I
out.
like that. So you might have to turn off the World Series and write your 5 blessings, yeah, to make time.
Don't have to keep that up, yes.
Last verse, we're done because we're a little over time. I love this. 1 Peter 5, the epistle of suffering. He says, humble yourselves. And that's the first key, right? Maybe God's trying to humble you by your suffering, but we have to humble ourselves. And what does that mean then in this context? Admit what?
That it's not about you, it's about God and what he can do.
That's part of it. But these problems are what? Bigger than me. I can't fix them. Maybe I did them and I deserve them. That's humbling, right? That's really humbling when you know you brought it on yourself. But don't be in denial and don't get angry and complain. Just be humble. And that's what he says. Humble yourselves where? That's the first thing. It's the biggest step, but it's the hardest. But that's what suffering is intended to do if you're going to suffer well. It creates humility because God exalts those who are humbled, but he is opposed to those who exalt themselves. Second of all, it's under God's mighty hand. It's not under God. Humble yourself before God. It's not under humble yourself before God's hand. It's humble yourself before God's mighty hand. He created everything with his mighty word in his hand, and he, by his good hand, it was on the Old Testament saints. They prospered greatly. Can he take care of anything we're going through?
Yes.
But we have to realize I'm not in charge. I got to let him build the house. And then he will what? He's going to lift you up. Is that a promise? It's a promise. You say, well, I want it tomorrow. No, humble yourself. Be honest. Go through it. Endure. Just don't quit. He will exalt you someday, lift you up. And notice when he'll do it. And that goes back to what you were saying earlier. Some people need more discipline than others, right? And when he knows you're ready, he'll lift you up or relieve the problem. Or give you the strength to deal with it. I don't know what it might be, but he'll do it when he knows it's ready. And that's why we love that song, In His Time, right? He makes saying all things beautiful in his time.
My mother and father lost 2 children 7 years apart. And when I grew up and I had a child, I asked my mother, how did you live through it? She said, God was there.
Wow. Anyone that has triplets knows what suffering's like. I'm talking about when they're born. But they're a joy now, aren't they? They're the greatest joy in the world. Huh? Always been a joy. All right, yes.
Someday the veil will be taken of our misunderstanding off of our face, and we will see what God was doing
Oh, yeah.
behind the scenes. But one thing I find real confidence in, just like Joshua did when he was fighting the battle, we talked about it in class today. He made the sun stop for hours so Joshua could complete. Our God is in full control.
Mighty hand, right.
His mighty hand is there.
Right.
He knows what you're going through. If he delivers you from that because you're still useful for what he feels he can build your character more, then he will.
That's right.
But if he figures
Proper
it's
time.
time for you to come home, then it's time for
That's
you
right.
to come home. And
That's
just
right.
accept it.
That's right. I love the next one, casting how much? And cast is like throwing it. It's yours. You take care of it. I can't. Isn't that nice if you could just say, it's yours. You fix it. And why do we hang on to it then? If he says, this is what I want you to do, is cast it on me, and I'll take care of it. So why do we hang on to it? It's silly. It's foolish. But when you suffer well, you accept that you're suffering and say, Lord, take care of it while I'm suffering because I can't do it. And then notice the reason he'll do it. Last one. Do we really believe that God cares for you?
Amen.
Can I say, he cares for me? It has to be very personal. He cares for me. Well, I did it. He cares for me. Doesn't matter what you've done in the past. If we're humbling ourselves, he'll lift us up. Yes, Mary.
Isaiah 41:13 says, For I, the Lord your God, will hold your right hand, saying to you, Fear not, I will help you.
Right. That's fear not, I will help you. That's beautiful. Someone else? Heather.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just me, but I'm curious if it's common for human beings to feel like mentally, spiritually, I know that God cares for
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes I think that, how to explain
Yeah.
it, I'm not always cognizant of
Yeah.
his care, and maybe it's just me. And so
Right.
this kind of reminder is really good because, I mean, if you think about, if you focus on the suffering of life and just everything that you've been through, I mean, it can be minor things like
Yeah.
bronchitis and then back pain and then
Right.
somebody died. Like, I don't know, they just keep going and then you've got financial strain.
And it just builds, yeah.
Just the burden of living. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's right, but God cares. But it doesn't always feel that way because life can be hard.
Yeah, I know. And that's why when you see someone that's anxious, what do you know?
We're not praying.
They haven't casted it.
They haven't cast it on God. They're hanging on to it. That's why they're anxious. He says, you're anxious? Cast all your anxieties on the Lord. Well, can I be worried about something? No. It is a process. It's very hard to do that. I'm not saying it's easy, you know, because we like to be in charge again. Yes.
Okay, guys.
Now, we're out of time, so I'm getting anxious. But
I'm the queen of anxiety right here.
do we have an amen?
So, you know, and I analyze it, I sit there, I think about it and try to analyze myself, you know. And sometimes I wonder, you know, that I'm trying to do all that I can first.
Right.
And that might be in some respects. Sometimes I think people can psychologically have an
Right.
over sense of responsibility.
That's extreme.
Okay?
Because let me interrupt. The victim mentality, no responsibility. The extreme is I got to fix everything, and that's an extreme the other way. Yeah.
Responsibility. And,
Yeah.
you know, because
Yeah.
you don't want to be just a louse not doing anything about it, but then you just get yourself in a quandary, and then it comes to the point, you know, honestly, I just can't.
Yeah. Well, let me answer that real quickly. Remember with James, you'll be blessed in what you do. So, Lord, I'm worried about if I do all these things, are they going to work out or not? He's saying, you let me deal with the outcome. You just do what you know you need to do. So like going to work or paying the bills, like you'll be blessed in what you do. Just don't get anxious about it, the outcome. And that's what we do. Go ahead and do what you're supposed to do. But you're not up to the one to make sure it works out. He is. That's right. Do your part. And go to bed on time.